Today's story follows two best friends who share a hobby that most people wouldn't even dare to try: extreme mountain climbing. For them, hanging hundreds of feet above the ground is just another weekend adventure. But this particular trip slowly turns into a terrifying fight for survival. This is where we meet our two main characters, Sophie and Kelly. The two friends arrive at the resort to spend their weekend in nature, but they aren't here just to relax. Early the next morning, they plan to climb the tallest and most challenging peak in the area, a brutal 10,000-foot mountain called Mount Antilao. Sophie is energetic and adventurous. She loves documenting everything. Kelly removes a necklace from around her neck. Inside the small locket is a memory of her late boyfriend, Vicky. She once climbed these mountains with him, and the place is full of memories of their adventures together. But Vicky is gone now. Just then, the sound of a Jeep breaks the silence of the resort. A vehicle pulls into the parking area, carrying four young men who seem just as excited about their weekend trip. They look like typical college friends. One of the men, Josh, immediately notices Sophie, and the two share a brief moment of eye contact. Soon after, Josh walks over to their cabin and knocks on the door. With a friendly smile and some obvious flirting, he introduces himself and invites the girls to join their bonfire party later that night. Sophie is clearly tempted by the idea. She enjoys spontaneous adventures. But Kelly isn't in the mood to socialize with strangers, so Sophie politely declines the invitation for now. Later, we meet the rest of the guys, Jack, Ronnie, and Taylor. While unpacking, Jack mentions that the resort manager warned them that climbing the mountain right now could be dangerous. Meanwhile, Ronnie and Taylor tease Josh. They remind him that he's already engaged. Josh laughs it off and says they came here to enjoy themselves, not worry about responsibilities. Back in the girls' cabin, Sophie keeps thinking about the bonfire. She eventually convinces Kelly to go for a short while, promising they'll return early since they need to wake up before sunrise for the climb. That night, everyone gathers around a campfire under the open sky. The flames crackle while the dark mountains surround them. Sophie quickly fits into the group, laughing and joking with the guys. Kelly remains quieter, mostly observing. The guys explain that they're old college friends who reunited for this weekend trip. At one point, Sophie notices a strange watch on Josh's wrist and jokingly asks if it's some kind of spy device. Josh laughs and explains that it's actually a personal locator beacon. If the emergency button is pressed, it sends a satellite signal so rescuers can find them anywhere in the world. Sophie finds it impressive and casually mentions that she and Kelly will be climbing Mount Antilao the next morning. The guys are surprised. They admit they also wanted to visit the mountain, but don't have the experience to climb difficult routes. Soon, Kelly gets tired and decides to return to the cabin, leaving Sophie at the bonfire. Later, Josh says they also plan to climb the mountain the next day, but using a much easier trail. Sophie teases him for taking the beginner route and confidently says she and Kelly will reach the summit first. Josh jokingly suggests she could visit his cabin later and teach him some climbing techniques. Sophie laughs at the obvious flirtation. Meanwhile, back at the cabin, Kelly watches an old video of Vicky. In the recording, Vicky proudly talks about climbing Mount Antilao for the third time while Kelly attempts it for the first time. The video reminds her how they first met during a rock climbing training session. Their relationship grew through shared adventures, but the memories are painful because Vicky eventually died after falling from a mountain. Back at the bonfire, Sophie has had a bit too much to drink. In the heat of the moment, she suddenly kisses Josh. Later, she leaves to use the restroom. While she's gone, the other guys confront Josh again about flirting despite being engaged. Josh shrugs it off, saying there's nothing wrong with having fun before settling down. With that attitude, he follows Sophie into the dark woods. But what happens next changes everything. As Sophie walks back toward the campfire, Josh suddenly blocks her path. He tries to force himself on her. Sophie pushes him away and tells him to stop, but Josh refuses. The situation turns violent, and Sophie starts screaming. Hearing the noise, the other guys rush over and pull Josh away. Terrified, Sophie runs deeper into the forest. Now the situation becomes serious. If Sophie reports this to the police, Josh could face severe consequences. The men decide to chase after her and convince her not to say anything, claiming it was just a drunken mistake. But Sophie doesn't trust them and keeps running. Eventually, they catch up to her. During the confrontation, Josh angrily pushes her. Sophie loses her balance and falls down a rocky slope. Around the same time, Kelly wakes up at the cabin after hearing distant noise. She steps outside and notices the campfire area is empty. Something feels wrong. She turns on her camera and starts searching for Sophie. Meanwhile, the four men gather around the injured Sophie. She's still alive, but barely able to move. Ronnie suggests calling the police immediately, but Josh objects, pointing out the scratches on his face and other signs of a struggle. He argues the police will assume they attacked her. Josh claims there's only one way to avoid prison. Ronnie refuses, saying they should explain it as an accident. But Josh insists the police will never believe them. Sophie weakly begs them for help. Instead, Josh picks up a large rock and brutally kills her. The other men are shocked, but Josh pressures them to help cover up the crime, so they are all equally involved. What they don't realize is that someone else is nearby. Hidden in the darkness, Kelly witnesses everything, and her camera records the entire scene. To make it look like an accident, throw her body further down the slope. While watching in horror, Kelly accidentally lets out a small scream. The men immediately realize someone else is there. Now Kelly becomes their next target. She runs through the forest as the men chase her. Josh shouts that if Kelly reaches the police with that camera, they're all finished. At dawn, Kelly reaches her cabin, grabs her climbing gear, and begins climbing the steep vertical wall of the mountain. Her idea is simple. The men aren't skilled enough to follow such a difficult route. But she's wrong. Taylor starts climbing after her. As Kelly climbs higher, some of her gear falls out of her bag and drops down the mountain. Now she's missing important equipment. Still, she keeps climbing. Taylor gets close, but Kelly kicks him, sending him falling down the cliff. He crashes onto the rocks below with a horrifying injury, his leg bones sticking out. The remaining men take Taylor back to the cabin and give him painkillers while they continue chasing Kelly. Kelly climbs higher, but now faces serious problems. Her rope and most of her equipment are gone, and she's climbing with bare hands that quickly become torn and bleeding. Meanwhile, Josh and the others decide to take an easier trail around the mountain to intercept her from above. During the chaos, Kelly's phone ended up with them, and Josh uses it to mock her. While climbing, Kelly faces another terrifying moment when a venomous snake crawls onto her hand. She stays completely still until it finally slithers away. Later, she accidentally drops her water bottle, and Josh laughs while watching from below. He even posts embarrassing messages on her social media to mess with her mentally. But Kelly refuses to break. She keeps climbing and eventually reaches a rope hanging nearby, which she pulls closer using a wire. Eventually, she discovers an old abandoned tent hanging from the cliff and climbs into it to rest. Soon the men reach the ledge above her, trapping her. Josh throws down a rope and offers a deal. If she sends up the camera, they'll let her go. Kelly doesn't trust them and instead sends back an insulting note. With no way to climb further, she decides to stay in the tent overnight. Inside, she finds a knife, which she keeps for protection. The story briefly flashes back to a year earlier when Vicky proposed to Kelly on this same mountain. Moments later, he slipped and fell to his death. Back in the present, Josh tries to torment Kelly by mentioning Vicky's death. Later, he throws a heavy bag of rocks at the tent, nearly knocking her off the cliff. That night, Jack rappels down and attacks her, but Kelly fights back with the knife. During the struggle, the tent nearly tears away from the cliff, forcing Kelly to climb back onto the rock. Later, Jack and Ronnie begin doubting Josh. They suspect he may have already killed Taylor earlier to prevent him from contacting help. When Ronnie tries to activate the emergency beacon on Josh's watch, they realize Josh is awake and heard everything. Later, Josh attacks Jack with a hammer and pushes him off the cliff. The next morning, he lies to Ronnie and sends him down to Kelly, ordering him to kill her if she refuses to give up the camera. But Ronnie instead tells Kelly the truth about what happened. Kelly reveals she saw Josh kill Jack. The two decide to trick Josh. Kelly gives Ronnie the camera without the memory card. When Ronnie returns, Josh realizes the card is missing. At the same time, Ronnie calls Taylor's phone, and the ringing comes from Josh's pocket. Ronnie finally understands that Josh killed Taylor, too. A brutal fight breaks out. Josh overpowers Ronnie, ties him up, sets him on fire, and throws him off the cliff. Now Josh is the only one left. He climbs down to finish Kelly. But Kelly has already spotted a snake hiding in a crack in the rocks. She tells Josh the memory card is hidden inside that crack. When he reaches in, the snake bites him. Enraged, he attacks her again. Kelly stabs him and cuts his safety rope. Josh barely holds on to the rock, begging her for help. Kelly calmly takes back her necklace with Vicky's ring. Then, she presses the emergency beacon on Josh's watch, sending a rescue signal. Finally, she stomps on his fingers until he loses his grip. Josh falls to his death. Kelly is finally safe. With the memory card and Vicky's ring, she climbs the remaining distance and reaches the summit of Mount Antilau as the sun rises. In the distance, a rescue helicopter approaches. After surviving the most terrifying night of her life, Kelly stands at the top of the mountain, finally completing the climb she once dreamed of finishing with Vicky.